Good afternoon. My name is Savannah, and I am the producer for the Roxborough House Roundtables at Jefferson East Falls. Each episode is recorded and later posted on our YouTube and SoundCloud channel for those who are not able to make it to the live event. They are also aired on the first and third Sundays of each month from 8 to 9 a.m. on G-Town Radio 92.5 FM WGGT. For today's roundtable, we're talking about residential life on the Jefferson East Falls campus. Our host, Eric, who is a second-year law and society major, will be discussing the benefits and struggles of living on campus, and we will hear residential living experiences from other students.
All right, so hello everyone. So I want to start this off with just getting like a general poll of the room. So I'll just ask for a raise of hands. How many people here are satisfied with Jefferson Housing and living on campus?
Let the record reflect that.
Yeah. No one raised their hand. Okay. So I just want to do that to kind of get a starting point of seeing where we are. Now, I just have a few different parts of living on campus that I'd like to bring up and to hear student opinion on, but also if anyone here wants to bring something up that's not included, please feel free to do so. So the first one is the sign-in process for guests into the dorms. So does anyone have any thoughts and opinions about the current policy for that and the process of how it's done? Okay, I will share my thoughts first then. So just for some context, to sign a guest in, you have to make them their own profile of sorts on the Jefferson Housing website. But then you have, and they'll ask their name, phone number, emergency contact, and a picture of their ID. You only have to make that once, but each time you want to go sign a guest in, you have to go in to the housing portal and then establish an estimated time of arrival and departure. And all students here are pretty familiar that it's a tedious and annoying process to do, as it takes a few minutes to get the page loaded up because either the Wi-Fi isn't working or we don't have good cell service, or sometimes the page just malfunctions and the security guard does not see that you have submitted a guest entry. And then looking how we have this done and then comparing to other universities like Temple, for example, which is in a much more
challenging.
Yes, a more challenging area than East Falls. They have their sign-in process is simpler, it's more lax than Jefferson, and all you do is just hand in your ID essentially, and then you're signed in. You don't have to do anything beforehand. So does
Eric, is this for people who are not in the university or people who outsiders, insiders, any difference between the two?
This is for any time you want to sign any guest in.
So if someone's coming from one dorm into your dorm, they have to go through this whole process, even if they have a Jefferson ID?
Yes, but there is an exception though, for the townhouses, you don't have, if you live there, you don't have to go through that, as there's no security gate to go through. Or if you live in the apartments, let's say I live in Jefferson, my friend lives in Madison, I don't have to go through that process. It's only if I have a friend living in the townhouses and they want to come over, then I would have to go through all of that. Or if my parents want to come up for some reason.
If Giselle said was in a different dorm than you, Ronson, and you're in Stoller, I believe, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're a Jefferson student. You want to go visit him, study, whatever. You have to go through this whole process?
Yeah, I would have to go through the process, and they make that delineation. You can choose what type of ID it is, and you can submit a Jefferson ID.
So what's the point of it? I mean, you're already, yes.
The thing I don't understand is you have Jefferson student IDs. So if I were to sign in someone and they're a Jefferson student, I have to go through the whole entire process to even give their ID. But wouldn't it be easier to have a system where, because we still have to sign in and scan it anyways, wouldn't it have a much easier system to to have the set up the way that I put the reservation in, my guest signs their ID, it checks off the reservation, and then they don't have to go back and retrieve their ID, because especially like now when it's like freezing cold at night, I do not want to go from Jefferson, which is at the very far end, walk to the middle of IP to get their ID, and then walk to my car, which is usually at the very far end of the lot. So it'd make a much easier sense to have a system where people or visitors who are students here, at the very least students who have an ID at the school, should be able to just scan in and it should just check off that they're here.
I do think it's definitely an issue with the software that is being used by ResLife, that is being used by Jefferson and everything like that. It becomes complicated because there's so much reliance on these softwares, but they are not the best. They're not like mobile friendly. They don't load correctly sometimes and things like that. You'll get an error page a lot, and now you're left in like this, well, did it go through or did it not? And then you have to go through like the annoyance of like going to the like the security like office house thing. I feel like this is especially an issue for IP because there's only that one house. And you have to go through the one singular building to get to all three. And as Josh was mentioning, that's a lot of space to cover. It is tedious, it is annoying. But I feel like it's difficult to fix because of that reliance on the software. To change that would be to change the system, and that takes time, which takes money, and that's not something that Jefferson typically likes to invest in.
I mean, I'm in a townhouse this year, so it doesn't really apply to me this year, but last year I was in Schaller, and I would have like a guest every week or so. I would be like sitting at that security desk because it didn't go through, and I'd be re-putting it in like 5 times. I'd be there for like 30 minutes before I was able to go back to my room.
And this is another Jefferson student with a Jefferson ID?
No, this is not Jefferson.
Okay, now, see, I could understand non-Jefferson, because people coming off campus, we want to know who they are. But I don't get the point. If you're a Jefferson student already, you've been vetted, we know who you are, you have a picture ID, I don't understand the point of it. Does anyone understand the point of it?
No.
I think for the freshman dorms, it would be different, the ones on the other side, because of how the buildings are structured. They're not like, you go in and basically you almost have access to like all the halls and everything like that. You can go in like through your ID. So I think from that perspective, it kind of poses like a security issue. Also, if you're like not living in those dorms, like if you're a freshman, I think you should be able to go like to the other freshman buildings. But maybe upperclassmen, like, why are you hanging around in like the freshman dorms kind of thing? That would be my only like reason.
So does anyone have any, like, we talked a little bit about this already, but like any like ideas or solutions to make this like whole process easier on the students to like sign people in? Because even, I just want to bring this up really quick, that especially, I'm sure Josh, you've seen this too, living in IP, but people will hop the fence because no one wants to go through that. It's extremely tedious process. That'll take like multiple minutes, and it just takes 1 minute to hop a fence to sign someone in.
Should I? I'll be honest, I might be one of them people.
Josh is a made-up name.
I'm not real. I'm just voicing the concerns of
Emphasis
people
on alleged.
who are not students here. But when I'm coming back, I go to the Anytime Fitness at like 1 a.m. and I'm coming back. It's 30 degrees outside. It's frigid. I am gonna be real, and I'm not gonna. I park at the very end of IP. I'm gonna look at that walk to the box to sign in to walk back to Jefferson, and I'm gonna be like, all right, well, no one's here. I'm gonna hop the fence. It's not that hard to do, and it would be a much easier process if I had to sign into my own dorm. Like, it's kind of. I understand schools trying to save money by having just one security guard, but it would be much easier to have a security guard at the beginning of each of the buildings and get rid of that ridiculous fence. Because what's it stopping?
I would feel like that's concerning if it's only one security guard at a time, because like God forbid something ever happens to that one security guard, who's going to be over there making sure things are going the way they're supposed to be.
Do you guys feel safe?
No, sorry.
Safe and like just like generally like on
Yeah.
campus, do I feel safe? Yeah, definitely. I would say so. Having all these advanced security precautions, that just doesn't make sense for me, since it is a safe campus to be on.
Do you feel like it's a safe campus because of those, like advanced security that you're talking about?
No, no, not at all. I don't think having to like go all like through all this process to sign a friend who goes here, I don't think that impacts security on campus at all.
Yeah, kind of what like Josh is saying. If the process becomes so tedious that people think an alternative solution like hopping the fence would just be more practical, I feel like that raises a safety concern, right? Because now people feel like they can just hop the fence, and like who's hopping the fence, who's coming in. The point is to go through like some type of security, some type of like we know who's coming into the building. But if everyone feels like that's too much, I'll just bring whoever and hop the fence, then it's like defeats the purpose.
Counterproductive.
Yes.
So you make it easier. See, the point is we want to know who's where,
Mm-hmm.
just for whatever reason. And if you make it easy, then you won't be having to hop fences, and we actually get what we want. But when you make it difficult, then people go around the system, and then you're getting the exact opposite of what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also like, you need to recognize that this campus benefits greatly from like, arguably this is one of like, the most red line districts within Philadelphia. East Falls is like, especially where we are right now, it is very wealthy, it is a very affluent neighborhood, and there's like yards that are like the size of my house back home. Like people have wealth in this area. It is not a high crime area at all. So to like have all these measures like that are more advanced or more like tedious than actual like campuses that have major crime within the vicinity, like Temple, like it is ridiculous. I'm not trying to like justify that this place is red line. It's obviously terrible, but it's a complete overreaction and is not even taking what we have for granted. Like it's taking what we have for granted.
While I can agree that some, like, the process of, like, these safety precautions can be tedious, I feel like it shouldn't matter whether, well, it does play a factor where, like, the location of where you're staying at, but I don't think it should matter, like, even though this area is seen, like, to be a nice area and the crime rates are low, I don't really think that says anything because, like, I could be wrong, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but take a look at the Idaho murders. Wasn't that, like, an area that wasn't, like, it was dead to crime for a while, and then those murders came around, so I don't really think the precautions should be taken away because it's a good area. I think that the precautions should still be there, but maybe make it a more manageable and easier process.
And more effective where people are not forced to go around the system, but
Yeah.
actually use the system.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I'm just like too America pilled, but when I go into a Cam Bar, that building is open 24/7, and it is one of the most populated areas on this campus
6 o'clock.
until 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, you need your ID.
But it really doesn't make any sense because when I look at this campus, and especially in a gun America, there's no one stopping people from breaking in and just shooting out the glass. This is not bulletproof glass. This is just regular glass. If people wanted to do harm to this campus, they could. Putting a scanner on these doors does nothing. It is just making it more difficult for the people who want to actually come to school here. And if people wanted to do harm, they would. And I doubt the public safety would do anything to stop them.
I feel like this, just like speaking on this issue and everything like that, I feel like it's more concerned with how public safety manages and operates rather than how residential life kind of like operates. Like residential life is more like the facilitator for public safety's kind of like what they want to do and everything like that. Like have the office have people sign in and things like that. So I think it's like firstly important to recognize that. But to Josh's point, like yeah, like people who want to do like extreme harm, like this is a very open campus, and I feel like you'll always like quote unquote run that risk. But I see the point of like having a scanner like after 6 o'clock, right? Because like you don't want just kind of like anyone going into these buildings and things like that. Is it effective in like stopping, say, like somebody who wants to do serious harm? Probably not. But like I don't think that's necessarily the point, right? It's just to make sure that like it's students who are really like accessing these buildings after hours.
That's like my argument with like the gym. Like the gym closes on the weekends at like 4 o'clock, which is ridiculous because if you have an ID, you should be able to go in whenever you want, realistically. And if something were to be stolen or something were to happen, you have cameras to look for that perpetrator, and you can just track their ID and know who it is. If you're saying like we should have a school that's closed off by scanners, then we shouldn't pick and choose what things that we have that are closed off and that aren't closed off.
I agree with that.
So now I want to move on to another part of housing, the laundry facilities within them. I could say, as of right now, living in the on-campus apartments, I'm on the second floor, and there are 2 washers and 2 dryers for the first floor and the second floor to use. And then the third floor would also have their 2 washers and 2 dryers to use as well. And there's this limited supply of washing machines, dryers is also seen across campus in the other res halls, making it either extremely difficult and rare to do laundry at a normal time, because I could say most of the time I have to plan kind of far in advance when I'm going to do my laundry. I have to say, okay, I'm going to do it Friday late in the evening, because I know a lot of people will go home and that these washers will be open for me to use. So I was just wondering, if anyone here, do they have any similar experiences with this? Do they have any comments?
The best time to do, I've looked at it, the worst time to do laundry is on Sunday because when people are coming home, and Wednesday because that's the midway point of the week. The best times is by far Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Especially Thursday and Tuesday, those days are the best. The problem is, I want to go do laundry, and a few weeks ago in Jefferson, every single washer was broken except for one. So I had to walk over to to Madison to do my own laundry. And then because people were doing that and people were taking all their laundry at once, the laundry can't handle all that at once, their washers got broken. So now it just feels like if this is not kept on top of, and if we are not making sure that our washers are actually working, and this is just going to lead to a bigger problem. And there's only 4 in each building, so it's they're not giving us enough resources to actually do our laundry. They have 40 washers in Ronson, but 4 in the entire building of Jefferson.
I have a question. When you guys, because I don't live on campus, when you guys go, this might be a dumb question too, but when you go to wash do your laundry, do they provide anything for you? If you might not have anything?
All they do is how other universities, you might do quarters. It's all included to use the machines. They don't provide though any fabric softener, dryer sheets, or laundry detergent. Which, that is definitely a notable plus for the laundry facilities here, not having to, either download another app or something to handle the finances, or go to some, I don't know, bank or something like that.
Come on, okay, all that money to stay there, and they can't even have a little section or a vending machine of cleaning products.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea.
I feel that would be cute. Regarding the definitely the number of washers in other dorms. Ronson has a decent amount, but in other dorms it is severely low. And I just think in comparison to how many, Josh was saying, how many people live in the building, in comparison to the 4, or I know Fortes, you have an entire hall and an entire building, and there's 2 washers, 3 washers, and things like that. They are susceptible to breaking and things like that. But there is the work order process, because obviously
But do they go immediately?
No.
they take time because it goes through it's not the Res Life who handles that, or our facilities who handles that. It's another provider who handles that. So again, it's running into who is providing, what resources are we using and things like that. That again is the issue.
Are the like washers and dryers, like, are they high quality, or are they just like decades old probably?
They're old.
Yeah.
And I was, my freshman year, I lived in Fort Hess. And there was, in my hall, 2 washers, 2 dryers. One washer was broken for the whole semester. So that whole hall only had 1 washer and 2 dryers. And now that I'm in a townhouse my junior year, we don't have washers and dryers. We have to walk the shower to do our
That's
laundry.
what I was thinking of.
And I have like 2 baskets full of clothes because it's so difficult to find the time to walk over the shower back and forth doing your laundry.
I mean, we shouldn't have to be going through like this extreme process to figure out what to do laundry, because the university knows that we are like busy people, that we have other priorities like classes, clubs, other commitments that we want to do. But for laundry, again, it just adds to that burden of needing to get things done, and it just overall makes it just more stressful to live on campus.
I feel like people might hear this and being like, oh, they're complaining a little too much and things like that. But it's really annoying. And
Like you try living with it.
like try
Yeah.
living with it and everything like that, and then realize it's like burdensome, like Eric was saying. Like you should have access to laundry within the dorm or the hall that you're living in. So when things break or when things there's just not enough for how many people there, and like you're scheduling times and things like that.
Yeah.
That's weird. It's just weird. And we can do better, is I feel like the point of this.
Yeah, and it also, like, not having enough to supply for an entire res hall, it then could lead to some, I guess, like, I don't know what you want to call it, maybe like a, quote, revenge, like, low-key, of people messing with someone else's laundry because, like,
That's
like
taking
just-
out people's
Yeah.
clothes and things like that.
yeah, like just the other week, I waited and I took someone's laundry out of the washer, and then I go back to, I forget why I went back into the laundry room. I think the washer for my clothes was done. Some of my clothes was in the utility sink.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And if we had enough washers and dryers, that probably wouldn't have happened
You have a
in the
sink.
first place. Mm-hmm.
I've totally done that before.
You put people's
not
clothes
in the
sink?
sink. That's madness. But there's a folding table, and I at least
Oh,
have
yeah,
the
that's where you're
decency to
supposed
put
to
it
put it.
there.
Yeah, I put it on the
Um,
table.
But yeah, I feel like we would run into less of these, like, I know especially like laundry is such like a high-rated contention between residents.
Mhm.
It's like,
You fight.
yeah, like low-key, like, oh, who didn't take out their clothes and everything like that? I'm about to start throwing out clothes and things like that. Like, you avoid that with just having enough and making it accessible. And like to Amy's point, I feel like we could better it by having like a little vending machine there. I don't feel, again, like you would have to go through another supplier if you wanted to, like, and the like, oh, someone who can like fix it faster or things like that, because we do go through another provider, and I don't see us replacing all the washers and dryers.
It should take like a whole
for that.
semester to fix one broken one, you know?
I feel like that becomes like an issue of people not knowing that they can put in a work order themselves.
is that the resident's job to put in a work order for the washer?
If,
I
if you
feel
notice that
like-
there's something wrong in your hall, dorm, or whatever, wherever on campus, then yeah, like it would be beneficial, because like who's like looking through and checking through that often,
Yeah.
and who has more access to it, who's using it more? It's the residents, so it's extended to them to like.
Well,
report
wouldn't
that.
RAs have more of like a burden also to do that, because they are overseeing people living in these buildings, and they go through, I remember seeing last year, RAs like going through and like walking in all the buildings, checking everything. I mean,
Yeah,
do
so-
you check like the laundry facilities
Yeah,
too?
we do.
Oh, you're an RA?
Yeah, I'm an RA,
Oh, cool.
and we do go check buildings, and we do go check laundry and things like that, and that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to like check if things are working. We put in work orders and things like that. So yeah, but like things take time. I know in the Ronson office, the laundry room, the machine was broken, and they had a sign like it's gonna be a while because we don't have the parts and things like that. again, I think that comes down to like the provider we're using and like the resources available rather than, you know, like I feel like there's some things that you can't realistically avoid. Things break
Yeah.
and things take time to fix. But I think we can increase like how much accessibility people have to those resources.
Definitely. So just for final remarks, does anybody have like any comments about any topic of Res Life that they just like want to make a comment, like what's done well?
I think Res Life does respond pretty well to student concerns and what students want. I think, as you said, the burden's on kind of like RAs who like live in there, but also like you can speak to their office and your RDs respectively. But I think it really comes down to like if there's an issue and we don't know about it, we also rely on our residents letting us know problems, and also residents understanding like the scope of Res Life's capabilities and things like that. Again, we go through different providers or we partner with different offices like public safety, and it's kind of like compromising on some of these things. But what are things that we can realistically achieve? We can definitely like realistically make sure that people have access to like laundry, rooms, washers, and things like that with more ease. We can definitely like do better in providing. We can definitely do better in like making sure we're keeping up to date with fixes, with work orders and things like that. All of these things we can do. But certain things, like obviously there's limitations.
Yeah.
So with the housing in general, like where you're placed, I don't think there's like much care taken to it, and I understand that a lot of people live here and it's really hard to keep up with it. But last year for Scholler, I lived by myself. Kind of got placed in a utility closet, not gonna lie. I was right next to the bathroom, so the shower steamer pipes ran through my room. I had a big gap in my wall with the pipe in the middle with bugs coming out. And I had holes going to the bathroom with toilet paper stuck in it to like plug the holes. So I understand that it's very hard to keep things super clean for the next residents, but like it can get out of hand like that. And I kind of felt like, you know.
That
It's
is
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my last straw. Like,
Oh, I was livid. And then they stopped listening to me at some point. So my mom had to email them. Like, how dare you put my daughter in this room? And they eventually fixed it then, but I had to live with that for like half the semester.
that's a safety hazard of its own.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the shower pipes, but there was a big gap in the wall, holes in the wall going to the bathroom. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone should be like
That should
expected
be
to
a
live in those
closet.
conditions.
That should be a janitor's closet.
What did I want to say? I do feel like there is an issue, and I feel like we're going to see change to that very soon. But I do feel like there's an issue with how people get placed, and things like that. You know, staff is constantly like sometimes changing and things like that. So things fall through the cracks. I remember that at least for the gender inclusivity hall that's in Ronson and things like that. Some of the residents who live there were like kind of people who just got placed there, not necessarily knowing that they were going to get placed in the gender inclusivity hall. So that created an issue, which like last minute we kind of addressed by like splitting the hall into like half of it's going to be the gender inclusivity hall, the other half's going to be like the women's wing and things like that.
Oh, wait, I just have, I want to ask you something about that. Last year,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, Partridge, the entire building was the gender.
No, only the
No?
third floor.
Only the third floor.
Yeah.
Because I was saying, I remember a lot of sports people
Yeah.
lived in that building.
A lot of the sports people, because Partridge does have like the big quad rooms, were like, oh, let's live in the quads, and to make sure that we can live in the quad and not like just be randomly put into say Ronson. Let's check off the gender inclusivity, so that was taken advantage of. That's why I got changed to Ronson. But what was unexpected is that less people wanted to live in the gender inclusivity hall. So it was difficult to fill out like a whole hall in Ronson. So that led to like the issue that I was talking about earlier. So I do agree. I feel like we can do a better job with placing students, and I do feel like that's going to change for like I have high hopes for that for next year and things like that.
And considering the fact, like, the past 2 years, they accepted so many freshmen
Yeah.
that last year, housing applications, all the juniors besides me, because technically I was a sophomore at that time, but all the juniors could not get housing. All of them couldn't, unless they were put on the wait list and someone dropped out.
I feel like that's like the main issue that is happening, like an over acceptance of students.
Yeah.
Literally just not enough housing for
And
that.
it's not guaranteed.
It's
but,
not
like,
guaranteed.
None of the
Upper
juniors
class.
got housing,
Yeah.
that's a little,
Yeah.
That's sad.
No, yeah,
That's really
that's
sad.
ridiculous. It really.
And there's a lot of space on this campus too, where it could be very easily for them to just create a new building if they wanted to.
Well,
Although
new
that
buildings,
would be,
it'll
that
take
would be
years.
costly.
or stop, like,
No, if they
Putting
had
too
the
much on
right
your plate.
manufacturing and like contractors, it could be done within 3 months. If they
3 months.
Yeah. The pipes are already there.
That is
If
mad
you,
money.
if you think about it, the pipes are already there. And this, I'm sure this university could afford it.
they'll take their sweet time doing it.
Oh, absolutely. No, we would
But
rather
it
make
can
a new
be
science
done.
building for
It can
for
be
the
done.
STEM majors.
Or even like there are like tons of apartment buildings in this area. They could very easily like buy one of them or contract with the like
One of the apartment complexes.
yeah, like with the owners so that they can turn it or like have an easy avenue for students to have housing close to campus, and at like at least a lower like rent rate so that students can afford to live close to campus.
Yeah, because I mean, it's kind of stressful after your second year. You're kind of just thrown into, like, okay, go find yourself some housing. Yes, there are some resources that the university will provide, but again, it's mostly figuring this out on your own, which is pretty terrifying to do as a 19 or 20-year-old student
Yeah,
who doesn't have that much experience with all this.
Figure that out. Like, would you even be able to afford it is the question. Like, I've been hearing other students who live off campus, there's like 4 roommates and they're still paying $800 each
Yeah.
with 4 roommates, and that's excessive. And it's for an old building too. It's not even for like a new one.
Yeah, no.
And
Just for rent.
Philadelphia is expensive, especially in like Josh was mentioning this earlier. East Falls is pretty affluent, so like living in Manioc.
Oh yeah.
Like how? Hello.
Former Governor Ed Rendell lives here, lives in East Falls actually. Sorry.
Who does?
Ed Rendell, he used to be governor of Pennsylvania and also used to be mayor of Philadelphia, and he lives in this neighborhood.
Let's see if he wants to live here.
Yeah, so I just feel like it's super expensive. When they're saying like not guaranteed, they really mean it. They really mean it, and it's for like the majority of students. And I feel like that's because we have too many students that we're accepting, and we're not supplementing that with enough staff to cover the needs of all those students. I'm thinking about literally every office is understaffed. Counseling, student health, Res Life 2.0, even though they just got new staff, right? We're accepting too many students, but we're not providing enough support for all
Like,
those
where
students.
is that money going?
Putting too much on our plate.
I just want to mention something about the health center.
Period.
The hours of the health center are outrageous. They work between like I could be off by an hour or two, but they work between 9 to like 12. They have an hour and some lunch, and then between 2 to 4 they work again. But people have classes during those times, so when you really need them, you can't go to them. And what about the students that live here? Because I don't live here, but I had an accident here, and I hurt my knee, and I needed urgent care. I couldn't go to the health center because it was closed. It was past 4 o'clock. What about the people that live here and they have an emergency in the middle of the night? Who's going to take care of them?
But for people in the middle of the night, you are right. There's the blue light that you can call for emergencies.
But that blue light,
also-
it's only going to do so much.
It patches you to public safety, and public safety if you need an ambulance, they'll get you an ambulance.
Yeah, but do you know how
and
much
things
an
like that.
ambulance costs if you don't have nice insurance?
Well, yes.
So that's not something that's covered by the university, so I feel like it's reasonable. There's students living here. There needs to be a health center open up at all times. They can't just be closed whenever they want, and I don't think it should be closed at any time, even for lunch. I think somebody should come and switch their shift at that point.
Well, now you're faced again with the same staffing issue. Like,
Why?
like spoke
We
to
own,
her for a
we
project.
literally own a hospital.
No,
There-
like that's what's really
We own a
funny is the fact
hospital,
that
and
we're
we can't
Jefferson
even
Health
have a
and
good
we
health
don't
center.
have like an accessible health center in the sense that the people there, they're nurse practitioners, and they have like different what do you call it, hours. So one person is like working full time, one person is working part time, one person has like an 8-month like type of.
If you
contract
think
thing.
about it, if they had like a better system for the health center, that is a perfect place for students or like nursing or whatever. They can have their practice there in the health center alongside with, because like we said, that there's a staffing issue. All you need is 1 or 2 people that are really qualified, and then you can have helpers while they're also learning. I think that's a great opportunity for them.
I mean, that is, like, I do agree with that point in a sense, because I've had problems with, like, accessibility, and it wasn't a staff issue, you know?
Mhm.
They weren't qualified to react or act on my circumstances. They honestly I try to get, like, passes for, like, coming in late to class or skipping classes because I have fibromyalgia. So accessibility said, well, maybe Jefferson's not the school for you.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I try to get like, since they wouldn't give me that, I try to get like putting in assignments late because I wouldn't be in class. And they were like, we don't offer that, but I have a friend who has that accommodation who goes here. She has the late turn in assignments accommodation, but they told me it didn't exist.
Why?
So it's
Did you
definitely-
mention that?
What?
Did you mention that? That there are other students that have that accommodation?
I kind of gave up at that point because they
No,
also
I would have been
denied-
petty.
They accepted and then denied my ESA too.
Yeah.
So I was very discouraged from that. So I kind of just gave up. You know,
Oh, I'm really sorry that happened to you. Like,
I mean,
it's terrible.
it happened. And I was going to say something. It's not that wasn't like a number of staff issue.
Yeah.
It was how they were qualified, and they weren't qualified at all to deal with that.
All of this money is being poured into this university for the facilities to never work, for it to be constantly understaffed in multiple areas, for students to not have the resources that they need to be able to get an education here. And so it like really is like, what's the point of even going? Like, why are they keep raising our tuition every single year, and things just get worse.
I do have a theory on that. That even though all this money is supposedly funneled, like we pay increasing amounts on tuition and fees and such, that money is definitely not like being reinvested into this campus. It's like
Where's it
bare
going?
minimum.
Yeah.
The
So
lawn
say
chairs? The lawn chairs were like $2,000 a pop.
Yeah.
Or the hammock garden that nobody
That
uses.
nobody
Yeah,
uses because
what
there's
is
no
that
hammocks.
for?
Like, like the one person who brought their own hammock.
Which I think is outrageous. Who's going to bring their own hammock?
But I do feel like the
I was
money
thinking
is
about
like
it.
not being funneled into this.
No one's gonna carry that
university
around.
specifically, but it's
That's
going
true.
to like Jefferson, the